Hey you guys, it's me Laura. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, ages 14, 12, and 7, and I'm also the creator of the Ticket to Learning curriculum. And today I'm here with you with a very different kind of video. This is a very chatty vlog, and it's really an update on, and a bit of an apology, even though I know I don't technically need to apologize, but this is just kind of where I've been and what to expect moving forward, as sometimes life throws us curveballs that we are not expecting. So first of all, I want to preface this by saying that I understand completely that I do not owe anyone an explanation of my medical status, what's going on with me, all of that kind of stuff. And for a while I wanted to share this video, but have actually struggled emotionally to do so, as I've been working through a lot of stuff. But I'm at the place now where I feel like I can share, and I'm choosing to share for a couple of reasons. First of all, I have been on YouTube for nearly 15 years now, and I truly consider this space a community. I feel like you guys have seen a lot of ups and downs throughout my life, and this is another one of those. And as a part of this community, and as I value this community, I want to share in that way. From a professional standpoint, I feel like it's important that I give some sort of explanation with Ticket to Learning, the curriculum, what's going on, and kind of where things are at from that perspective. So I'll try to put timestamps below depending on where you're at, but yeah, I expect this to be a little bit rambly, and I also ask please for I'm not looking for cures, I'm not looking for a special diet, I'm not looking for anything like that. I am working through a lot of this with a community, with doctors, and yeah, so I just want to make that clear as well. But so I have been on a rough medical journey. It all started about September. We had really bad fires here where I live this summer, and I had a really scratchy throat, and my mom had noticed that my throat was swollen. I only have half a thyroid, so we were concerned with what could be going on there. So I went to the doctor, and we went in. So I went to the doctor, we did an ultrasound and found a lump that looked very suspicious. Long story short, went through a bunch more testing, a lot of things that came back as benign. I was sent to an ENT who diagnosed me as having reflux, and we worked with that. And because of my family history and because of some other things, I was also referred to a GI doc to do an endoscopy. And everything with my throat was actually connected to GERD. We're still having some issues, still working through that. But that's, hopefully we're nearing the end of the finish line with that whole process that has drug out this incredibly long. But throughout this process, we discovered that the root issue really of what I'm dealing with is something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, otherwise known as EDS. I haven't been genetically tested because it's expensive and not always accurate, but based on my symptoms and what I'm dealing with, I've been diagnosed with the hypermobile type, which is the most common type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's very rare, and it is a chronic illness. It is a spectrum illness. So that means you can have people with Ehlers-Danlos who have hardly any symptoms and live life normally and never even try to get diagnosed or anything because it doesn't affect them a whole lot, all the way to people who are highly disabled and have a huge impact on their lives. So that's kind of the spectrum. When I was diagnosed with this, I didn't really understand the implications. And at the time I was working through, actually let me back up a little bit. I know that some of you guys have been following my story for a few years, and you know that I've really struggled with mental health a lot and had a lot of exhaustion and things connected with that. I will post a video here where I did a day in the life working through my depression and still homeschooling. My mental health is in a really good place. I've come a super long way, but my energy levels have not risen to the level that I thought they would to match that. And that's been very frustrating to me. And now I understand part of Ehlers-Danlos is chronic fatigue. That's a part of the disorder. It's basically where Ehlers-Danlos is where your body, it's a genetic level disorder where your body does not produce collagen correctly. And so your ligaments are loose, your joints are loose, all of your soft tissue in your body is basically affected. So you can imagine, like, that's skin, that's organs, that's muscles, that's ligaments, tendons. So for me, a lot of times that presents with people having constant dislocations, things like that. When I was little, I did have a lot of dislocations, but for me, that presents mostly in my tendons being really affected. So I tear my tendons, I have a lot of tendonitis. Tendon issues are very common in me, which is a huge part of it. But as you can imagine, my digestive system is affected. I'm almost always in some level of pain somewhere. I have learned since discovering all about this that I do have subluxations a lot, which I didn't recognize that that's what's happening. And that's when your joint doesn't come completely out of socket, but it like goes out of place and then pops back. So that happens to me a lot. And now I understand what's going on. And so there's just a lot of learning, a lot of understanding what that affects, how that affects things. For me, the most difficult piece of it is honestly the chronic fatigue. I'm having to learn something related to chronic illness called spoon theories. And I don't know if you've heard of it. I'll link below the original story. But the idea is that people with chronic illness who especially have this chronic fatigue component to it, but it can go into a bunch of other things, that it basically is like you start the day with a certain number of spoons. Each activity takes a spoon. So maybe a shower. Showering is really hard for me. That might take 2 spoons. You make a meal. That might take a spoon, or it might take 2 spoons. You go to the grocery store and that takes a certain number of spoons. Homeschooling my kids will take a certain number of spoons, all of those things. And the idea is that you only have that number of spoons per day. There's no more spoons. And so once you've used up your energy, you're done. Like, it doesn't matter what else you have left to do, you're done. And if you continue to use spoons, you're using spoons from the next day, which might be even more limited, because if you use everything you have, you're probably going to start the next day without as many. It's kind of confusing. I don't know if I'm doing the best job of explaining it, but I'll link the story below, or the story that started the whole spoon theory below. But the idea is basically I have very limited energy, which is super hard for me because my brain is very high powered, and I've always been this way. I've always had more ambition than I have had energy or ability physically. And because I had been doing some better with my physical health, I had planned in that fall semester, September, October, November, December, like all of that time, I was taking on a tremendous amount. And I knew that season was going to be extremely busy and stressful for me. And then I'd planned to really rest over the winter. I was running Ticket to Learning. I was helping lead a STEM club, Future City. I was one of the teachers for one of the groups for that. I was assistant directing Frozen Junior at the school, plus I was homeschooling my kids, which is a lot. It's a lot for anybody. I knew it was going to be a lot. Then on top of that, I had the health stuff start to creep up in September at the beginning of all of these things. So I live rurally, so it's like an hour and a half to any of my medical appointments that I was having frequently. So I had to add that on top of everything, plus just the stress of wondering if I had cancer, of just the procedures themselves. I do have some medical PTSD, which is very common also, I've learned, for people in Ehlers-Danlos. I often have a lot of anxiety when I go to appointments, and it takes a long time for me to come down after I've had them. All of this is part of it. So I just really way overdid. I had my diagnosis for Ehlers-Danlos around that September-ish mark, but I had no idea what the significance of that was. It was kind of like, oh yeah, I have this bendy thing, because a lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos are very flexible, bendy, can bend their body in weird ways, which I've always been able to do. And I thought that was I didn't really understand the implications, so I continued to push myself really hard, and it ultimately led to a complete, the biggest crash I've ever had. I'm used to living a life where I have this crash, like push cycle, where I feel good, so I try to do all the things and I try to live my life what I perceive as being a normal busy woman, and then I crash because it's just way too much, and then I start to feel better from my crash, so I ramp it up and push again, and then I crash. And that has been the cycle of my life that I've desperately been trying to figure out over the past several years. Now that makes sense. But again, I didn't understand that this fall. And so I pushed really hard and I crashed major, which included just extreme body fatigue, but on top of that, my ankles just became jello. I couldn't walk, couldn't even walk to the bathroom without help at the worst parts. And I had to go to physical therapy and really learn to walk again. I had, anytime I was walking anywhere, for a while, it was even in the house, but then I got to where I could walk around the house. But I would have to use hiking poles to kind of as extra support. I've went on a trip in February, and I realized that now, actually moving forward, probably forevermore, whenever we travel in the airport, I'm going to need to use a wheelchair, because walking around the airport, the past several times that we've traveled anywhere, I end up crashing the first couple of days, if not the entire trip. And so we're trying to figure out ways to kind of make it better. Like when I went to to Hilton Head, I got out of a condo one day. I didn't even make it to the beach because walking on the sand was too painful, but my energy levels were really low. So we're trying to figure out ways to make travel more accessible. And one of those things is by using the wheelchair in the airport. That makes the energy strain on me is so much less, so that once I arrive at my destination, hopefully I won't have a complete crash. I'm learning though that once I get there, I probably need to plan the first day of doing not much and kind of only plan activities every other day. Anyway, all of this pacing stuff is stuff that we're just trying to figure out and trying to learn. But I was finally starting to make progress in my walking. I was able to walk very short distances on my lane with my poles. Then in about a month ago, I came down with pneumonia, which another part of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is that it can affect your immune system. And once you're sick, it can take you a lot longer to recover, which is really frustrating. But yeah, so I had pneumonia. It was a pretty scary case. I didn't have to go to the hospital, got really close, but managed to avoid that, which was really good. But that completely knocked me out again, which was super, super discouraging for me. I felt like I was finally starting to see enough progress where I was feeling like a human again after my crash in January. And then, yeah, setback again. So I'm starting to do a little bit better now. I'm walking more. My lung capacities, they said it could take up to a few months to get that back completely. And I'm still trying to learn how to pace myself. Right now I'm struggling because of the pneumonia and because I was already behind before that. I am so far behind in everything. I'm behind from homeschool stuff. I'm behind in Ticket to Learning stuff. I'm behind in life stuff. If you could see my office right now, it is a total disaster because things have just been piled in here. This is the first time I've really sat in here in I don't know how long. So everything is just really behind. And so for me, moving forward, as far as the future of Ticket to Learning goes, I have no desire, no plans whatsoever to quit or to stop or anything like that. I'm continuing to move forward. I have several projects that are in process at some stage, but I cannot predict. I'm used to scheduling work time and working during that time and being able to somewhat predict how long it will take me to get through something, how much I can move forward, at least with the writing portion, with the things that I have control over. But at this point, I can't do that. I can't guarantee that during a work session, I'm gonna have that energy or be able to do the work. I don't know what things are gonna be from week to week or day to day, so it makes it very difficult. So at this point, I'm still going forward with Ticket to Learning the best I can. I just can't give any kind of prediction as far as timing goes. So that's kind of frustrating to me, but that's just where I am. This is just a small business with me, and I have a designer and I have an editor who helps with some of the writing as well, but it's mostly me. And so if I'm out, then things just kind of stop. So that's really frustrating. At this point, we are set to launch our first focus unit about Nellie Bly and investigative journalism this in June. That is still set to happen. Again, it is dependent on if I'm able to get I'll have it back it's with the beta testers right now. I'll have all their feedback back and we'll be able to kind of make the final tweaks next month and then release it. Again, all of that is contingent on how I'm doing and what's going on with my health. So, all of this has been a journey. There's been some grief. I had always, during my life, felt like if I just get this one thing taken care of, then I'll finally get to where I have more energy. The last big round was once I get my mental health taken care of, then I'm going to have more energy. And while doing the work I needed for my mental health was huge and impacted my life and my family's lives in major ways, I didn't get that energy that I was hoping for. So now I've kind of had to come to terms with the understanding that I will not get that energy surge that I want. It's more about me learning to manage the energy that I do have. And I'm learning a lot and making a lot of progress. And at this point, I'm pretty hopeful. I feel like I don't like that I have EDS. I don't like that there's not a cure. I don't like that there's not really anything I can do to fix it. But I think living with an understanding of what's going on and learning how to pace myself, it's like I told my husband, I can still do everything that I want to do. I just can't do all the things I want to do at the same time. Or all the things, I might have to pick and choose and prioritize things. And I might have to adjust the way that we do things. I'm understanding more about bracing for my ankles, for my knee, for my hips, for all the wrists, all the things. I currently am learning, you see I've got some, can you see the KT tape there? It's purple. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Right there. Yeah, it's the same color as my robe, so it's hard to see, but learning about taping to help with some of my joints and some of the issues that I have, working with a physical therapist, trying to just go down all the rabbit holes with all the doctors to get a baseline for all the things that could be problematic with EDS, which is a lot of things. So I'm just kind of working with all of that. I also have found that for me, there's been a lot of validation. For those of you who've followed my journey for a long time, you know I had a lot of issues with pregnancy and postpartum. Not all of them, but many of those can be traced back to EDS and my extreme fatigue that I had after each of my children were born. I felt very guilty about that. I struggled with that a lot, and now I understand what was going on. So I think, it's a very big lifestyle change. So for me right now, I'm still pulling out of the crash. I'm still trying to get to my baseline and figure out what that is. I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know what that's going to look like. I think once I get to that point, it'll be easier for me to figure out rhythms, figure out how to listen to my body better so that I can live life in a way that doesn't feel so disruptive, that will feel full for me. But yeah, there's a lot to learn, a lot going on. And that is pretty much where I've been and where things are headed. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know below and I will do my best to answer them. I'm still learning a lot. I'm not a doctor. I am a patient, and I really appreciate the people who have made it their job to teach people about EDS and other chronic illnesses. That is not a place that I feel as though I want to become a champion for. I'm happy to share about EDS as it relates to my life, but I think for me, it's important that I live a life outside of my EDS for me to feel fulfilled. So that's kind of where I'm headed moving forward. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much for your patience. Again, I'm really frustrated, as I'm sure you are, that I can't give you any more details as far as releases or how things are moving forward or anything like that. Know that I am working in the background on days that I am not able to write, but I am still able to receive information. I'm taking classes and courses and things, but a lot of times right now in my crashing, I can't really even listen to an audiobook. So yeah, it's touch and go. Some days are good, some days not so good. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now. And yeah, that's all I have. I'm sorry this is so rambly. I'm not even sure I'm going to edit it just because this is a very raw and real where I'm at. So I hope that you guys have a great day and that you have a good summer, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.